Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Chloe Jimenez-Peters, and she is a rapid transformational hypnotherapist and narcissist trauma-informed coach, and she helps women worldwide free themselves from depression, premenstrual mood disorders, and the debilitating effects of narcissist abuse in a matter of days and weeks. Welcome to the show, Chloe.
Thank you, AJ. Honored to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We will talk about how one can break free from trauma, and that too very fast at a rapid pace. So we'll come to that. But before that, Chloe, let's understand a bit about you, about your journey, about your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
So I have a medical background. I ended up going to medical school and then dental school. But actually, I had suffered from my teens from depression and premenstrual mood disorders. I would be off school for 2 weeks of the month. And then back then, we didn't really know about it. But then finally, the doctor diagnosed me with chronic fatigue and depression and put me on antidepressants. And it took me 2 decades to then understand after 11 years at university. And then I went down a rabbit hole of learning about the subconscious mind. And this brought me to where, what I do now. And really understanding the nervous system, how by the time we're 7 years old, we've formed 95% of our beliefs, which creates our perception of ourselves, our perception of the world we live in. And our nervous system is reacting to that perception all the time. So basically, depression is the freeze response. So, when we're perceiving danger, our nervous system comes to protect us by putting us in fight or flight response. And this is where we find anxiety, anger. But then we reach a threshold of fight or flight. And then our nervous system comes to put us in the ultimate survival mode, which is freeze and shuts us down. And this is where we find depression and dissociation. And it really is a protective mechanism. And this is all to do with the beliefs you formed about yourself. And as humans, we are hardwired to belong to our tribe, because as children, we cannot survive without our caregivers. And therefore, we are adapting to our environment from the moment of conception, forming beliefs about ourselves in order to belong. And when we form beliefs because maybe our caregivers couldn't attune to our needs, or we've experienced a traumatic event, a lot of people don't even recognize that they've had a traumatic past, but they might have experienced something, a moment of confusion where the child has made a belief about themselves. I'm wrong. I'm bad. And this creates the perception of oneself. And this is formed mostly before the age of 7 years old. And we're carrying these beliefs subconsciously. And of course, the nervous system will shut you down through, as a protective mechanism, because you are perceiving that you could be rejected. If they find out that you are bad, which is the belief, if you're not enough, you're wrong, then you could be rejected. And this is very scary. So our body creates this biology of courage. The nervous system does this for us and shuts us down. So I work with the root cause, the subconscious root cause, and it just is. And I do this using hypnotic brain states. We go in and the subconscious mind shows us the beliefs, and we use a number of tools, and then we go in and they're like mutations in the belief system that hold us back. With any pain in your life, say it's not just depression or anxiety, not just mental health issues, procrastination. People come to me to get to the root cause of why they keep going for narcissistic partners, toxic partners, and you're just being shown in regression scenes in your childhood where you have normalized what love is as being an unhealthy, toxic situation. And, you know, the mind loves the familiar. The mind will always go for the familiar. And so we've got to make that what we want familiar and what we don't want unfamiliar. And we do this in hypnotic brain states.
Right. But Chloe, if you see, the brain loves the familiar, but opposites attract. Why can't such people attract people who are opposite to them, who are different, who are better, and who are normal people? Why it doesn't happen in most cases?
Yeah, great question. There's like this payoff, right? When I work with people who tend to attract the toxic partners, the narcissistic partners, these people I work with tend to be the overgivers, the empaths, and it's almost like it makes them feel enough. It's like we fit together like a puzzle, right? So it's like the empath feels enough that their subconscious needs are being met, and there is like it's like a human magnet syndrome. It really is. Our wounds magnetize us to each other. So when you transform your subconscious blueprint, you no longer tolerate that same kind of person. You just are not attracted to them. You actually repel them like a magnet because you're honoring yourself. You've rewired your perception of who you are and what's available to you now.
Right, right, Chloe. So now let's understand about, you talked about childhood experiences. Uh, why should we consider those experiences as trauma? What is a trauma in the real sense? And experiences can, can you grow up, you have more experiences, you have many different sort of people, many good people. So I want to understand then, how can just the 6-year, 7-year old experiences, thoughts can be in your mind, until such a big thing has happened that can you actually term as traumatic. Then it leaves an everlasting impact is understood. So help us understand between those, normal experiences, somebody has said one word or the other, but they are not traumatic, and trauma is totally different. How should we understand all these things?
Yeah, because trauma is actually what occurs in the body. And with children, it's very easy to acquire these because children under 7 don't have a critical conscious mind formed. They don't filter things out and think critically the way we do. They're in hypnotic brain states, children are, and so they're absorbing this information and they're making conclusions with their child's mind all the time. And when you do this work, you realize that was a lie. That could never be true, but it was a misperception of a child, and it stays in the subconscious like a mutation, activating your nervous system, activating this cascade of physiological reactions in your body. So the trauma is not the event. That's what I want to say. The trauma is what occurs inside the body because of a traumatic event, let's say. And I don't think that we should really be categorizing trauma as big T and little t, because it really depends on the person's capacity to hold a traumatic event. What is genetic is our level of sensitivity, and a lot of people I work with are highly sensitive people. Now, there's been so many studies of this on the highly sensitive person, even across all species, over 100 species, even fruit flies. 1 in 4 fruit flies is highly sensitive, and evolutionary. Speaking in evolutionary terms, there's benefits to being both. It's not like one's better than the other, but it just means that a highly sensitive person processes things deeply. They maybe need more time, and also much more easily pick up trauma imprints. And so, children can very easily lose trust in themselves, right? We shut off from our intuition really easily as a child because they're there, let's say, cleaning a window with kitchen roll and paper, and they think they're helping mummy, and then mummy comes in and shouts at the child, "What are you doing?" And the child is shocked, right? We have a moment of cognitive dissonance here, a moment of confusion. And the child goes, oh, I thought I was doing something good. And now I'm rejected. Now I'm unloved. This must mean I must never trust myself again. I'm not good enough. And then there's all these beliefs and conclusions that the child lays down. And that is, you wouldn't necessarily say that was a traumatic event. But in that moment, that child, detached from, like, I must never trust my intuition ever again. And so they stop trusting themselves, they stop trusting the universe, they stop trusting others. And so this affects you through your adult life until you actually do this work in hypnosis, understand, and then do the inner child work and the parts work, and coming back to wholeness, right, in this therapy.
Right, right. Now, several people talk about generational trauma. So, which is more powerful, your own trauma, or is it the generational trauma? How, or can it also run together at the same time as you grow up?
I think it's like how I see it. I see it as all the same, right? Because no parent wakes up in the morning and says, "Today I'm going to mess my kid up." Everybody is doing the best with the tools and the resources that they have. And so, but we're busy parents, we're stressed out, there's a lot of demands, and we're carrying our own stuff. But this means that when our child has a need that overwhelms us, we react from our blueprints. We react with all of our baggage, and so this is how we pass down the generational trauma. It's real. And I think that from how I see it, we can't really separate it in a sense. It really is very holistic, and I think that when we have a traumatic event in adulthood, I think actually it's just triggering childhood trauma. When you look at soldiers that come back from war and 20% of them have come back with PTSD, why don't the other 80%, and I think that it's just bringing up stuff from childhood that hasn't been resolved. It's bringing it up to be healed.
Right, right. And now let's look at the solution. You talk about rapid transformational hypnotherapy. What is this rapid? We all nowadays want things fast. Is there a thing like this also which is possible? If this is possible, why the slow method? Help us understand then what is this rapid transformational hypnotherapy?
So when I was diagnosed at 17 with clinical depression, I was put on antidepressants, and I was sent to a talk therapist weekly. And I got to a point where I just thought, well, I come out of the session more upset, and it's painful, and it's like, yeah, see you again next week for the same thing. So it just wasn't for me. I stopped. And so when I came across this, having studied the subconscious mind, understanding and knowing that children are in hypnotic brain states until they are 7 years old, and the way the mind learns is in two ways: one, via hypnosis; two, by repetition. This was a no-brainer for me. I experienced it on myself. I understood it. And you don't go to the dentist and say, I've got toothache, and they say to you, come back next week and we'll have another look at it. It's like you want to go in, you want to have the pain removed, you want to understand how it got there, and you just want it removing and resolving. And it's making the unconscious information conscious and going, that was a conclusion of a child. And so we do the inner child. It's a 2-hour session. We do all the therapy in a hypnotic brain state. We do the inner child work. We do the parts therapy, and we then do the transformation, which is the last part of the 2-hour session. We are instilling the new, opposite, empowering beliefs to replace the malignant beliefs that we've pulled out. And then you go away from the session with a recording of those new beliefs, with a self-hypnotic recording, 15 minutes, and you listen to it for 21 to 30 days when you go to bed. And so this really ensures that you are cementing those new neural pathways. So we use both ways of the mind, the way the mind learns, hypnosis and repetition, and you just can't get away without a transformation. And we also understand how your organism is working, because your organism is so intelligent. This is how you got the trauma imprints. You were adapting to your environment from the moment of conception. Sometimes people go back to the womb in these sessions. You are adapting. You have all the power within you to heal. Your hypnotic brain states are a natural brain state that you go in and out of every day. They're just a slower frequency. And so once you understand how your organism works, you understand what's creating this shutdown, or you know, jumping from fight or flight to freeze, which is how most people actually live, I think, these days, then you can do something about it. Because when you understand your nervous system and you understand, I can actually tell my brain that I'm safe. So I don't need the biology of courage, because 80% of those nerves go up to your brain from your organs. So you can use your breathing to communicate. This is a polyvagal theory by Dr. Stephen Porges. So I teach that as well. And I teach metacognitive psychology, which is learning to get in control of your thoughts. Why do I need to think like this? Well, I'm believing that this is going to keep me safe. If I worry about it, then I might be able to stop it happening. No, when you actually break it down and you look, you're actually manifesting it happening. So we do the subconscious work and we do the conscious work, nervous system work, metacognitive work, and all of it together is so potent. It's so empowering, because you're doing the work. You're going in and reparenting that child that created this misperception.
Right, right, Chloe. So in terms of, trauma again, if somebody says, listen, Chloe, I understand you have a great method, but I don't think I have any trauma. Now, you don't have any physical proof of the trauma that happened so many years back. So how do you deal with that? Everyone feels, okay, there was some sort of a traumatic event. The person who is suffering says no. And because there is no apparent physical problem or even mental problem, but it's a trauma in there, how do you tell them, how do you get them to convince that part? So do you need, again, hypnotherapy just to convince them, and then another sort of a round of hypnotherapy to heal that trauma?
No, most people that come to me have understood that they formed beliefs that, like, we are not our thoughts, we are not our belief system, we are divine souls, and we have a body and we have acquired beliefs in order to belong. People normally they understand that before they come to me. But yes, it's true. A lot of people say, but I've had a nice childhood. And I'm like, well, but you're suffering with this. You're procrastinating. You're not able to reach the success that you are wanting in your life. There's something stopping you, right? There's a fear of visibility. There's a fear of being seen. What is that subconscious belief about yourself that won't allow you to be seen? And they'll go back to innocuous events in the session, just like children in the playground, or a teacher shaming them in a classroom. And it just these seemingly innocuous events that can hold you back for the rest of your life. So we don't need to know. The subconscious mind absolutely has the answer.
Right, right. And now, in terms of when we talk about depression, anxiety, and so many things, why are some people more susceptible to such things? Many people are not. And one more thing is that if you look at children from, say, a bit difficult background, a bit poorer background, if I may use that word, they have a lot of resilience. They are able to. Why are they not carrying that trauma? Is it only a middle class thing? Is it people who are living in bigger cities? They suffer this thing called trauma, childhood trauma, generational trauma?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I haven't actually looked at the socioeconomical link between trauma. What I will say is that children who are better attuned to there maybe, we've been taught to parent for many years in a kind of really unconscious way. A child until they're 2 years old thinks they're part of their mother. Co-sleeping should be actually a normal thing. And so when the pain, the trauma comes when a child finds itself alone with its pain and finds itself in a helpless situation. I need to do this, but I can't. So I think it's a human phenomenon that we all have limiting beliefs. We all have traumatic imprints that hold us back from really fulfilling our full potential. I'm constantly working on myself. Anything that comes up, I go, this needs transmuting. I need to understand what this is about. And it's just a human phenomenon, right? Because we are hardwired to belong. And it's like, if we're believing there's a glitch about ourselves, that there's something slightly wrong with us, which we all maybe do subconsciously, I think, then it's going to stop us from really fulfilling our full potential. It might not be as extreme as depression or anxiety, which, yeah, like I said about the highly sensitive person's gene, there is a gene that makes us more sensitive, and so those people are more susceptible. I wouldn't say that I had a particularly traumatic childhood, but it was, when I went back to the scenes in my therapy, I was able to see, my dad had his own fears. He wanted me to be a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer, and him saying this to me all the time made me conclude as a 7-year-old little girl that there must be something wrong with me. I must be innately wrong. What's wrong with me? He's saying to my sister that she could be an actress. Why don't I get choice? What is it about me that means I have to be a doctor or a lawyer or a dentist? Why? And the only conclusion my 7-year-old mind could come to was, you're innately wrong. There's something faulty about you, which is really interesting, because when I went to the doctors at 17 years old and he said to me, you have a chemical imbalance, you're clinically depressed, take these pills. We know now that serotonin model, there's no evidence to support that. There's no evidence. It's flawed. But this, when he said that to me, it resonated so much with me, because I had a subconscious belief that I was faulty, I was wrong, I was bad. And that it's these beliefs that just, like, can you imagine going through life with that feeling that, I'm bad, and actually not knowing. And people used to say to me, what is it about you? Like, why are you depressed? I'm like, I don't know. And if we knew with our conscious mind why we were depressed, we wouldn't be depressed, right? Because the problem is always subconscious. And unless you get to understand that, you can't set yourself free. And often it is just a little glitch, a little mutation in the belief system. And because what it comes down to is the ultimate rejection of self. Actually, you've decided that you are bad at a subconscious level, and so you're rejecting yourself, and this work brings you back to you. Your higher self comes in, rescues that precious innocent child who could never be bad, who could never be wrong. And it alters, you're rewiring your mind, you're reshaping your nervous system, and you just get to thrive and be excited to be alive, which is the absolute opposite of being depressed, where you don't want to be here anymore and you don't see the purpose or the point in being here.
Absolutely. There is much to learn about and understand about all these things from you, Chloe, and I'm sure a lot of people would like to do that, connect with you, and learn more about what you do, learn about themselves through you, also be your client. So what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, if you're ready to turn your wounds into wings, because this is what we're doing, we're transmuting any pain, any block into absolute gold, then you can visit my website on woundsintowings.com. There you will find, there'll be an inner child meditation. You'll find resources there, and you can also book, if you're ready to start one-to-one work, you can book a 15-minute free discovery call with me, and we can start mapping out your healing journey.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.